In the heavyweight division, we got Terrence Chatman coming in at plus 660. He goes up against Anthony Wint, who comes in at minus 1,000. Now, Wint, we'll start off on the Chatman side because for some reason he's in the red corner in this matchup. He is, or at least had the opportunity to fight for the Fury FC title 2 fights ago, but ended up coming up short by split decision against Myron Dennis, who I believe is a former Ultimate Fighter competitor. That was a tepid-paced fight for the most part. I believe Chatman had most of his success in round 3 and round 5 by hurting Dennis badly, but unable to close the show. But you know, he is an opportunistic striker. He has good timing. He's kind of fast. He's got a decent gas tank for a guy of his physique and fighting at heavyweight. Decent potential, for heavyweight standards, especially regional heavyweight standards. To have a guy like Chatman is not bad. I know matchmaker Mick Maynard has been in ringside for a few of his Fury FC fights, most notably that 20-second knockout that he had over Omar El Salah. That was a beautiful finish from Chatman. He seems to have some decent power in his hands, not really in a rush to get much done. He's fine to just be disciplined and allow the finish to show itself. And then last time around, he had that big victory over an 8-16 opponent who he was able to chop away at his legs and finish him in 3.5 minutes. Now he gets his UFC debut opportunity as he takes on the juggernaut Anthony Wint, who just made a successful Contender Series performance a week and a half ago, or at least a week ago from the time of this recording, where he knocked out Matt Adams in 34 seconds. It was a beautiful finish where he showcased that, Matt Adams should not have been in the cage with him that night. This guy is a former NFL player who gave up on his NFL dreams after getting cut, I believe, from the New York Jets. Then he went over to the CFL. That's when COVID happened, and that's around the time that he changes his attention over to mixed martial arts and had his first amateur MMA fight in February of 2021. He's been training with Kill Cliff FC, I believe, for the majority of his career. It's a great team for him to join, especially with the type of athleticism and coachability that he has. He's not just a guy that goes out there and looks to knock his opponents out. He's shown an ability to take fights to the ground and try to have some success there as well. He showcased solid cardio even in that fight that he had against Omar El Salah, where they went the full 15 minutes. It was a split decision win for him, but I thought it was pretty obvious that he deserved to win that fight. And he's a guy that just does not settle for bad positions. He's always working to be in a dominant position, or at least dictating the pace of fights and watching his opponents down and landing big shots of his own. And he has some solid potential even at 30 years old, right? We see a lot of NFL players make the transition to mixed martial arts, but they don't go about it the right way. They just go out there and try to rely on that athleticism and that big knockout power, where I believe a guy like Wint actually has a little bit of a process and a little bit of a method to his madness. And I think that's why he has a little bit more potential than the usual heavyweights and NFL players that we see make the transition over. Now, it's always weird to me that guys like Anthony Wint or even Bilal Hassan have to fight on the Contender Series to make their way to the UFC, and then they just get matched up with more UFC newcomers who didn't have to go that way, right? He's taken on Chatman here, and I believe, Wint the obvious minus 1,000 favorite in this spot. I think he'll be able to find that big shot to put Chatman away, but Chatman's no slouch, right? I don't think he's all that bad, especially for regional heavyweight standards. I think he has some decent skills. Again, decent enough gas tank, has some speed, has the ability to counter some of the reckless striking of Wint. I think Chatman can definitely make this a fight. Not so much to the point where I'm willing to take him as the underdog. I'm still picking Wint to win this matchup. I think he eventually gets that first round knockout just like he did last time around, but do not be surprised to see Chatman make this a little bit more competitive than most are making it out to be. Again, physiques don't win fights, because if they did, Wint would go on and be the greatest fighter of all time, without a doubt. But, there are things that could happen that could potentially cause some issues. Something else, again, I'm not a big MMA math guy, but Anthony Wint had to go 15 minutes to beat Omar Al Salah, whereas Terrence Chatman only needed 20 seconds to get rid of Al Salah. So again, there are volatility things that we need to remember in the heavyweight division, but I'm still going to go with Wint here, and I think he wins by knockout.